Peace. It's the Thompson's one, man. I just want to get through this video. I got some good information, a couple good articles for you. And let me start it, man. I ain't gonna get no title to it. Y'all will figure it out as I keep it moving while I'm reading. All right. So this is the article, Indian Country Today. Okay. Now I'm right here where it say the term Negro may have been meant for American Indian. Okay, now remember that. All right, you never heard that before. I have never heard that before. I mean, I've heard it, but I have never really looked into it like that, and we're gonna get into it. All right. So it say during the session, Native Americans at 1619. It say Dr. Arika Coleman, an assistant professor at University of Delaware, who is a Rappahannock and so-called African descendant. They say discuss how the term Negro might have actually been referring to African American. To American Indian. So according to her book, her 2013 book, that the blood stayed pure. They say the term origins can be traced to medieval Italy, where it was a classification of skin, not race. Okay, so it said additionally, Europeans often refer to indigenous population of their communities as Negroes. Okay, they say in the Portuguese colony of Brazil, Indians were called Negro de Terra, meaning Negro of the land. All right, remember that, y'all. All right. So it say Coleman pointed out that during the conference that the early Virginia legislature identified Moors, Negroes separately. There are also documents in which individuals were described as Negro, African. Coleman questioned why the two words would be used to describe an African person and suggest that native meaning a strong possibility. All right, now I'm gonna read this and I'm gonna go down a little bit more because I got something else to read. All right, so it says 1619 might not be the right year. It say Coleman also asserts that Dr. Coleman also asserts the year 1619 isn't entirely correct regarding the first arrival of blacks to America. It says she note Negro accompanied Spanish North American expedition a century before the English arrived in Virginia. It says she also cites evidence that cohabitation with Aborigines in early 17th century. She says that the 1603 7 Negroes escaped from St. August, say maintain their freedom and marry Indian women. Now, that's something else, all right? So I'm gonna later on I'm gonna come back and touch on this lady right here, Chief Lynette Alliston. Chief Lynette Allison, all right, of the Nottoway Indian tribe of Virginia. I'm gonna come back and touch on her, right? All right, so where we at? We right here. All right, so it's a long article, y'all, but I'm gonna try to just get through what I read. I might make 2 parts to it, depending on how much how tired I am. I'm kind of tired tonight. Just came from the gym, all right. So they say the use of the term Negro and Black to include person of Native American ancestry and Anglo North American Jack Force. So this is another author, all right. So just remember who the young lady was for this right here. This is an author. She has a book, okay. So I'm not saying that she said it. She's a doctor, okay. She's a doctor, okay? This is her book right here, May the Blood Stay Pure. And if you notice in these people in here, they are mixed with Europeans. That's the reason why they look the way they look. These are Negroes that mix with Europeans, all right? That's all it is. So, all right, so it says the use of the term Negro and Black to include a person of Native American ancestry and Anglo-American. All right, so now look, check this out. Now, if this is true right here, man, this is checkmate, all right? And people that, like, all these scholars and everything, they don't want to fuck with the intentionalist one, man. I mean, because stuff like this you cannot explain. You cannot explain Indian slavery that lasted almost no that lasted the same time African slavery did. Where are these slaves on the census? Since they put the slaves on the census in 1774, where are the slaves on the census in 1790? Because the slaves they classify these these Americans or these Indians as black, and this is a fact. Because when you look on the census, you cannot find no, you know what I'm saying? You cannot find no Indians around that region from 1790 all the way up to, they start popping back up around like 1870. So from 1790 to 1870, you do not see no Indians on. They either white or they black, free, or slaves. And then they got like three categories for black. Either they free. No, I guess they got yeah, well, total population, they got free and enslaved blacks. That's what they got. All right, so boom. So let's read this, man. All right, so it say the word black may include all Negroes, but the term Negro does not include all black persons. Yeah, all right. It say we are of an opinion that the word white, Negro, mulatto, and black person, whenever they're occurring in our Constitution, might be taken in their generic sense, that the word black person in the 14th section must have been a distinguished from white and necessarily include all races other than the Caucasian. All right, so let's read through this, man. I'm not going to read this because I read that part right here. I'm going to get right here. It say, in the British slave colonies of North America along the Atlantic coast, many persons of American ancestry were at times classified as black and Negro and mulatto. So we know why they were mulatto when they mixed with the European. They was already Negro looking. That's the reason why they refer to them as black and Negro. I just want to tell you that the Spanish, see what they telling you is this. When Columbus and them came, because that's your Spaniards right there, when they came, and when the other ones came too, you're going to see that they was calling these people in the Caribbean Negroes and blacks. So they was already there. This is checkmate right here. All right, so let me get with this. All right, it's going to be some things that might throw you off, but listen, man, put your Aborigine scopes on and just read through. Listen to what I'm reading, and the important stuff I'm gonna read twice. All right, so. It say mulatto, people of color. It say, and these terms were, of course, used for people of African ancestry. The manner in which the American and part American were sometimes classified as mulatto and people of color. Okay, check your birth certificate. See if your grandmother had color. See if your mother, which more likely they did. Which more 99% they did. All right, it say from the New England to South Carolina and in the Spanish Empire are explored elsewhere. The purpose here is to illustrate how the term Negro had also been applied to people of American and descent. So what do the word American mean? Originally applied to the Aborigines or copper colored races. They're telling you the Aborigines are Negroes. And listen, I'm gonna be reading through this and we're gonna get with this, all right? So boom. They say the possibility that Native Americans were quite commonly called Negroes is very different, supported by the Portuguese usage. During the colonial period, Brazil Indians were repeatedly referred to as Negroes, okay? So it said Brazil Indians was repeatedly referred to as Negroes, and then it goes as Negros de terra, Negro of the land. Okay, why would they refer to people, Indians, as Negroes? So, because obviously, and they have seen Negroes because they just came from warring with the Moors. So that you can't say that you can't say that they didn't know what a Negro was. Okay, so a great many examples from the 16th century and later centuries are cited by George Frederick, whatever. It said an analysis of Portuguese sources. It say these do not have to be repeated here, but suffice to say that it was so common that finally in 1755 a royal decree had to be issued as follows. Okay, let's check this out. It say among the regrettable practices which have resulted in the disparagement of the Indians, one prime abuse is the unjustifiable and scandalous practice of calling them Negroes. Now check this out. It say perhaps by so doing, the intent was no other than to induce in them the belief that their origins that have been disdained to be slaves of white and is generally conceded to be the case of blacks from the coast of Africa. So the directors will not permanently henceforth that anybody may refer to the Indians as Negroes, nor themselves may use this in plate among themselves as is currently a case. Okay, so so it said the Portuguese usage of the extremely significant, not only because American or part American slaves could be referred to as Negroes in early shipment records. Okay, say, but now hold up, let's read that again. Say Portuguese usage extremely significant, not only because American and part American slaves could be referred to as Negroes in the early shipment record, but also because it very much affects one analysis of the population status of colonial Brazil. And that's the same thing with this, with everything else. It affects the population when you analyze it, because these people right here, let me see if this is this it right here? Is this one? No, I ain't, you know what, I don't think I even got it up. Matter of fact, I do got it up. I got it up right here. So when you look on this, right, and this is what I'm telling you. So let's look at some place like, what's this right here? Let me see. New England. Oh no, alright, hold on. Hold on, let me go down. Alright, this is Alabama, right? So look. If you look at somewhere like Alabama, right? Now, what you do is this, right? Now, look. And it's the 1800s. It don't even start in the 1790. I guess they ain't even have no, because they was warring all around that period. You see it starting the 1800s with them because they was warring all in that period around that area. Now, check this out. Look at the brackets. We got white, black, American, Indian, Eskimo, and then they got Asian and Pacific Islanders, right? Now look, they got other race right here, and they got Hispanics, the origin race, alright? So you don't start seeing none of them until the 1960s and shit like that. Now, I'm not talking about them, but check this out. We're gonna go down. Alright. Now you see 1880. I mean 1800, sorry, 1800s. You see this classification right here is blacks. No, this is total. This is whites, this is blacks, and this is Indians right here. Both of these will be so-called Indians. All right, so this is black. So, in the 1800s, there was only 23 free blacks and 494 slaves. Okay, so as you go up, you see the numbers start jumping up, right? But my thing is this, right? They only have 494 slaves in Alabama in the 1800s. Now look at this. Now remember, they always tell you that they had. Now check this out. I'm gonna go down. Let me go down. Let me find South Carolina. That's Arizona. Let me go all the way down. Let's find South Carolina. Matter of fact, let's go up to Georgia. Alright, it's Georgia right here. So remember, y'all know where the columns at? Total population, white, black, Indian, other race, Hispanic. Alright, you remember, there ain't no reason to even mention them because they wasn't even here, and they wasn't here until later on. Alright, so boom. Well, we talking about the columns right here, because think of it like this, right? when I do the research, in 1790, they telling you they still had Indian slaves, right? Now, the problem is these are the columns for Indians. There are no Indians in these columns, okay? The only thing you see is black and white. And then later on, you start seeing the so-called, in 1860, you see 38 so-called Indians. Because I'm thinking that these are the free people who say, you know what, I'm claiming, because out of some of these people might have just been newer slaves or situations like that. But nonetheless, though, this is the population of, so it's 29,662 people in 1790, black people, all right? And out of them, 398 are free, 29,264 of them are slaves, all right? So, that's Georgia, all right? Let me show you something else. Maryland. Look at Maryland. Let's go to Maryland. So now look, check this out, people. If you was to go, real talk, that's Louisiana. I don't want to look at Louisiana. Hold up. But check this out, people. This is how you can do your research with this, right? If you go, all you got to do is check and study the so-called Indian slavery, right? Now look, when you study the Indian slavery, you'll see a lot of inconsistencies because it tells you that the Indians were slaves just as long as the so-called Africans, right? Now this is Maryland right here, right? So here we go, black, white, or whatever. You see, it's 100,000. There's a lot of blacks in Maryland, right? You see all these blacks in Maryland? They will tell you that these are slaves, but I don't think so. Okay, well, they would tell you that they was African, okay, because we know that there was Indian slaves, okay. The Indian slaves are classified as Negroes. That's what I'm just trying to show y'all right now, right? Look, so boom, so you see right here, black. See right here, all this column black, right? So you would think that if they had Indian slaves, and let's say even if they freed the Indian slaves, you think that back then they didn't have no vehicles to where people was moving like that. So you think the person will stay in that area, or at least they still will be able to be counted because they will already be worked into the colonization. They will already be Christianized. All right, so look at this. It's 8,000 in 1790. The total is 11. I mean it's 11,000. No. I'm saying it's 100,000. 11 and 79, whatever. So it's 8,000. 43 free right here, and it's 100,000, 3,036 of them enslaved right here. All right, but remember, the slaves are Indians, okay? Now look, you don't see no Indians, American Indian, Eskimo, whatever. You don't see none. They say nothing available. Now, if you look, you will see. If you look and you look on the census, you will see that they counted the slaves too. Okay, now that's just something else just for you guys to understand. All right, so we'll get back into this. All right, so the Portuguese usage. It's extremely significant, not only because American and part American slaves could be referred to as Negroes. It's an early shipment record, but also because it very much affects one analysis of the population stat. Now, what I just tell you, it's a population stats. A colonial Brazil, where in fact the categories of Negro and mulatto must have often included domestic and enslaved Indians and mixed blood. It's insofar as the term Negro became synonymous with slaves or servile status, it lost any specific color reference and became a general term of abuse, darker people preferring to be called Puerto as a result. It is highly likely that the Spaniards also referred to slaves generally as Negroes in the Caribbean, okay? And the Dutch, and check this out, all right? It says Spaniards often refer to slaves as generally as Negroes. This is the reason why you keep seeing these Negroes pop up and they're not telling you where they from in Africa, because the few Africans they did bring here, they do have some account, but see, people, all these so-called black people in America think they mixed in with them 20,000. I don't know how many Africans they brought, but I'm assuming that they didn't bring. I'm assuming that they brought less than 50,000. You can't show me unless you can show me where these people came from. Don't tell me just because they brought them from the Caribbean that they was African. Because we know in 1637, and then let me show you something though. Let me show y'all something, right? Look at this right here, all right? Let me show y'all something. All right, these are slaves. This is slaves in Mexico. This is an article I got. Well, not a, this is a PDF from the Latin American Study. It's called Negro Slaves in Early Colonial Mexico. I'm not going to read all that. I'm going to put the link in the description and let you guys check it out. All right, so you guys can do the research on it. All right, so this document is from 1540 to about 1556, and I think it's a little bit further than that because I see some numbers that's a little bit further out, right? So check this out. Now look, I'm gonna read something for y'all guys. All right. All right, right here. Here you go. So I say, I, Sebastian, a citizen of Los Angeles, empower you, Miguel Greco, citizen of Veracruz, absent, to recall from Alton Delgado. It's a citizen of Veracruz, a female Negro slave of mine called Catalina. It's a whom they shipped to me from Santo Domingo. Okay, Santo Domingo is the Dominican Republic. Okay, or that I think that's the capital of the Dominican Republic. Okay, they say whom they shipped to me from Santo Domingo and to issue an appropriate receipt for her in my name, likely to pay freight charge and duties on said Negro. All right, so boom, so look, it's 1553 when they was doing this. So now ask yourself this question. Columbus said that the people there could be enslaved, and then if you look at other articles, you will see that Columbus still kept these people enslaved. Look, let me see if this is it right here. This might be it right here. I had an article open with Columbus, and it was pretty much showing. Nah, hold on, it's this one right here. Yeah, it's this one. It's this one right here. Let's see. Now look, it say trying to put together an army resistance. The Arawak faced the Spanish. It say who had armor, muskets, swords, horses. It say when the Spanish took the prisoners, they hung and burned them to death. It say among the Arawak, mass suicide began, and the cast of poison. Infants were killed to save them from the Spanish. It say in 2 years through murder, mutilation, and suicide. Say half of 250. Now look, this is now. I mean, look. Let me just be frank with this. These numbers changes right here. First, they said it was 8 million. They said it was 8 million. I don't know if it's this article. But there's another article I had that they said it was 8 million. They said it was 8 million Arawaks on that island. Now I'm not sure about that, but if you read right here, it say when it became clear that there was no gold, the Indians were taken as slave labor on huge estates known as the Encomendas. It say they worked a ferocious pace and died by the thousands. Now, I don't believe that. It say by the year 1550, there were perhaps 50,000 Indians left. It say by 1550, there was 500. All right, so now look. It say by 1550. Now, in this article right here, I mean, it tells you that in 1553, they sent somebody from the island called Catalina. So, was she one of the Indians? Because it's not saying nothing about them or any Africans did. So this is how you pretty much figure this out. Now let me show y'all something else, right? Alright, so when you go down in the article, it tells you right here. Alright, so boom. It say the information given about a slave at the time of his sale varied greatly. Apart from the indication of tribal origin mentioned earlier, we find occasional reference to skin color. It say Atazido Preito, Perdo, Moreno, Americano Moreno. It's a mulatto, Loro. It's a color de Membrolo, Coke Hop. It's a whatever. It's a stool quince. It's a most slaves sold appeared to have been under 25. Now check this out. It say with not a few of them children and a degree of acquaintance with Spanish. It say of the 167 Negro slaves, 126 male and 41 female said who actually changed the hands of Pablo, whatever. It say between 1542 and 1556. Like I told you, it say were described as bozels. It say i.e. It say fresh from Africa with no knowledge of Spanish. Now keep that in mind. Another 33. Now I say 46 was described to be bozels. Okay, that's out of the 170, the 167. It say 33 as Ladinos, i.e. with fresh command of Spanish. Now that's what Catalina was, a Ladino, because she had Spanish command because she lived on the island around the Spanish. Okay, now this is telling you, so all of these right here, the Ladinos are indigenous people which was enslaved by Columbus and them on that island, because they're not telling you that they brought any people there. Okay, keep that in mind. So it's telling you, it's calling these people Ladinos. Okay, now remember, don't be confused about the word Negro, because it's telling you that the other article I got is telling you that they was calling the Indians Negroes. All right, so now check it out. It's saying with Spanish, it's saying in another 33 as Ladino. It's say with fair command of Spanish. All right, it's saying and yet another 5 as in between entire Ladino and Bozell. It say the linguistic skills of the remaining 83 was not specified, but it's safe to assume. Now look, he's assuming now. He said it's safe to assume, okay, that they were not Ladino. Now if they wasn't, where did they get these people from? All right, because they might have been people who they just enslaved that didn't understand nothing, because they didn't enslave the whole island all at one time. Okay, so it say that we're not Ladinos. All right, so just to show y'all, check this out, just to give y'all, I mean, it's a couple. I'm gonna put the link in the description, man. This is crazy, man, because they giving an example of. Now let me read this right here, for example, right here, right. All right, so it say I Geronimo de Perlita, whatever. It say merchant do sell to you Diego de Herrera. It's a citizen of Los Angeles, a Negro slave girl named Catalina, native of the land of Braun. Now they trying to say that she came from Africa. Right? Say who I sell to you as neither a drunken nor thief. It say but as a runaway, because she ran away from me once, and on her left leg she has a bruise and a small wound with a scab on it. It say but I sell her to you healthy despite the wound, since it is not dangerous. All right, so she ran from them. So remember, most of the runaway slaves was indigenous people, because they said that the Africans was not running away. They saying that the most of the people who ran away was indigenous. All right, so now that's, you know, it's a lot more and talks about this, but you have to be able to cross reference, because you know how these people be playing games with this information. All right, so boom. Let's go back into this. All right, so we left off right here. It say Puerto as a result. It say it's highly likely that the Spaniards also referred to slaves generally as Negroes in the Caribbean, and that the Dutch took over the same general practice, since Negro and Niger was not Dutch words and had no it had no immediate equivalent except swart. Now you gotta look the word swart up, look the word donkey up, look the word broom. If you look the word swart, it says no Neor. So why would the Dutch be calling these people Neor? Just because they calling them Negroes, why would they be calling them Neor? Okay, now check this out. As you see, it's going to change. All right, so don't think that the word Negro just means black, because you want to see it's going to change. The meaning is going to be kind of like it's going to switch. All right, so it say a Dutch French Spanish dictionary of 1639. It say has the following entry for Spanish: Negro, Neor, Sambre, obscure, off, whatever. Say broom. French swart. Dunker, broom, Dutch. It's a thus Spanish Negro could be translated as dark or brown. Okay, so remember that. It's a thus Spanish Negro could be translated as dark or brown, as well as black, swart, undoubtedly, the usage facilitated making reference to all slaves as Negroes and Niger. Say in the Dutch language, moreover, it is significant that the Spanish residing in Antwerp, say in the early 17th century, to prepare of the dictionary, saw Negro as being translated in a number of ways, both French and Dutch. It say by the later half of the century, the 16th century, the English were referring to the people of Africa as Ethiopians, Blackamoor, Negroes, and Moors. It say somewhat interchangeable with Negro, gradually came to be the dominant term, especially after the exhaustive contact with the Spanish. Okay, so it say and the Portuguese was not clear. I'm sorry. It say in the Portuguese, it say what is not clear is the extent to which the term Negro was unconsciously translated to black. Say automatic association of Negro with black color cannot be assumed. Now check this out. Since black Africans are actually medium or dark brown color. Now, you want me to read that again? Now, this is for these idiots that think the word black mean a human being, okay? They say what is not clear is the extent to which the term Negro was consciously translated as black. The automatic association of Negro with black cannot be assumed, since many black Africans are actually medium or dark brown color. In any case, another association gradually arose, and that was between Negro and slave. Early legislators commonly referred to Negro and other slaves, or to Negro, mulatto, and Indian slaves. Over the years, Negroes and black both becoming synonymous with enslavement. Okay, 1702, an observer wrote that the wealth of Virginia consisted of slave or Negro. By 1806, Virginia judges ruled that a person who was of white person appearance was to be assumed free, but in the case of a person visibly appearing to be a slave race, it is incumbent upon him to make out his freedom. We say in 1819, South Carolina judges flatly the word Negro has a fixated meaning slave. Okay, so the word Negro means slave, man. That's why I drew Alisa. You're not Negro, black, or color. Okay, whether you don't want to be a Moor, whether you want to be an Aborigine, but that's why he said stay away from that word. Okay, so it say what the English meant by the term Negro when they first began to use it is not clear. Certainly, it was not the synonymous with slave. It say a great many persons so classified were free. Okay, say both. No, okay, all right. So check that out. So it say when the English met the term Negro when they first began to use it is not clear. Certainly, it was not synonymous with slave. It say as a great many people of so-called classified was free, both in England and in Virginia. Okay, it say did it mean an African, a black person, or any dark-skinned individual? Today, the term is not widely employed in Britain, although the word black is used to refer to the person of various skin colors from all the South Asian, Middle East, West Indies, and Africa. They say most Native Americans, if living in Britain today, would be regarded as black, especially if their ancestry was not known. Okay, it say Negroes was also used in the general way in the North American colonies. Some example illustrate the use of Negro and black as applied to people of American ancestry. Say example from the West Indies is especially illuminating in 1764. Check this out, y'all. William Young was sent to St. Vincent. It say as part of the British occupation of that land. It say living on St. Vincent were about 3,000 black Caribs. Now look, listen, y'all do the research on this. I think this means Carib. I think the word Carib means free Negroes. Okay, now I might be wrong about it, but I just Googled this word and the word Carib just kept coming up. Okay, now y'all do the research on that. Okay. It say as 100 Reg, whatever. It say and some 4,000 French and their slaves, according to Young. It say the British found it difficult to control the Caribbean. It say and the war. Now look, it say the Caribbean. Now why is it connecting these people to the Caribbean? All right, it say the control of the Caribbean and the war fought with them in 1771, 1772, and again during 1795 and 1796. During a later crisis, Young wrote an extremely anti-Carib tract designed to prove that the Carib should be removed from St. Vincent. Now look, listen, he said it should be removed from St. Vincent. They were eventually defeated and some 5,000 were shipped to the island near the coast of Honduras, okay? That's how the Negroes, and listen, it was probably already Negroes there, but they get shipped more Negroes. So St. Vincent, if for y'all don't know, St. Vincent is the islands out there in the Caribbean. That's like by St. Croix, all them other islands out there. Once you get past Puerto Rico, them other islands that go around or whatever. All right, so it say the Young was anxious to prove that the so-called black Caribs were not the true Aborigines, but were in fact Negro colonists, free Negro. Now check this out. Let's read this one more time. It say Young was anxious to prove that the so-called black Caribs were not the true Aborigines. Now check this out. Now if they wasn't the true Aborigines, they should have been Africans, but they're not saying Africans. They saying Negro colonists or free Negroes. Now he's saying or free Negro. How did they get free? It say or Negro usurpers. It say this was important to him because he wanted to show that no, they had no bona fide land rights or Aborigine titles. Okay, so this is what they doing today. So remember that. All right. So look. It say, for our purpose, the interesting point admittedly by Young is that the so-called blacks or Negroes was occasionally tawny or mixed complexion because of American ancestry and that their customs, personal name, and language were those of the native Caribs. Still further, Young admit that they had repeatedly intermarried with American women. He consistently referred to them as Negroes nonetheless. He's trying to say because they mixed in with the so-called American women or whatever. But remember, the American Negroes was women too. I mean, the American women was Negroes too. All right. So it say Young also relayed a great deal of hearsay information about how black Caribs had originated. It say which is without foundation analysis here. The important point is this, that a people thoroughly American in identity, culture, and language were called black and Negro solely because of being mixed with African ancestry. It say this tendency continues incidentally, it say among white scholars. So it's saying that automatically. Now remember what my claim is. My claim is that the Aborigines are the tribes of Northeast and Southeast. So all them tribes was black until the Europeans came. Now let me read that one more time. And say the important point is this, that the people thoroughly American in identity, culture, and language were called black. So he's saying these people was American. He ain't say nothing about no African. Was called black and Negro solely because of them being mixed with African ancestry. So he's saying that they was being called black or Negro because they was mixed with African ancestry. Right now, it say this tendency continues incidentally among white scholars who even today refuse to accept the Caribs avowed feelings of Indianness and continue to call them black. So he telling you that them people was already there. Now check it out. It's saying 1619. Now this is basically what the brother Dan Colloway had on. He made a video about this, but I just happened to catch this in this article. So it's saying in 1619, some 20 Negroes was brought to Virginia. At least 11 has names of Spanish or probably Spanish characters. Later, they was joined by Negroes and mulatto with names such as Antonio. It say several and John Pedro. These Spanish-derived servants could well have been part of an American ancestry. So he's saying, he's telling you that they may have been part of American ancestry. Now they telling you these are the first slaves are coming. It say, however, no evidence is available. It say except that they were largely secured from a captured Spanish vessel. Okay, it's saying 17 from a Spanish vessel. They wasn't telling you the Spanish was bringing people from here. This is your transatlantic slave trade. The transatlantic slave trade is not the African slave trade. In 1676, one Gowen, an Indian servant, acquired his freedom in Virginia. 2 decades earlier, Mill Hill Gowen, called a Negro, also acquired his freedom. It would appear that the Negro was probably father to the Indian in the case. It's saying in 1670 the population of Virginia colony was said to be 40,000, including 2,000 black slaves. Evidence indicate that they could not have been that many Africans there, and also that there were a great many American slaves. Now it's saying I don't even believe it was no Africans there, because it's telling you the one in 1619 that them people might have been coming back from the Caribbean, because they're coming from a Spanish vessel. All right, so now look, it say evidence indicate that there could not have been that many Africans there. It say, and also that there was a great many American slaves and servants. Thus, the total of blacks must have included a good many Americans. They telling you now how you get mixing these people up. Okay, it said in 1698, three fugitive Negroes were reported in North Carolina. It said of whom one was an American. Similarly, it say a list of Negroes imported into Virginia, 1710, 1718. A C includes a list 69 Indians, most from the Carolina, likely listed as likely list of Negroes brought into New York from 1715 to 1736, include many slaves of parable or stated American ancestry, Compachi or whatever, Jamaican, Honduras, and the Carolinas and Virginia. Okay, this is what they tell you. We say it's in 1755, 1717 period, the vestry book of King William Parish, Virginia, record 1 year. Now check this out. Robbing an Indian. It say in 2 years, robbing a Negro. It say in similarly manner in 1691, list of Negro slaves in York County, Virginia include K Indian, while a 1728 list of Negro at the home house excuse me, it say a Virginia planter includes Indian Robin. Robin, incidentally, is a common name for slave of American ancestry. Not saying American ancestry. You notice that they're not calling these people Indians like that, right? But saying American ancestry. They're making sure that they keep putting American ancestry. What do the word American originally apply to the Aborigines or copper color races? Okay, so it say in 1748 there was an advertisement in New York for a Negro man servant called Robin. It say almost in complexion of an Indian, talk good English, can read and write and play on the fiddle. Say in 1723, Virginia adopted laws depriving free Negroes, mulattoes, Indians a certain basic civil rights. The act was disallowed by the British officials, but in 1735, Lieutenant Governor Gooch defended it by asserting that he wanted to make the perpetual brand upon free Negroes and mulattoes by excluding them from that great privilege of a freeman. He wanted to make the free Negro sensible that a distinction ought to be made between their offspring and the descendants of the Englishmen. It say with whom they never were to be accounted equal, since the act applied to the Native American and the half American mulatto. Booth's language would seem to include them under the general category of free Negroes and mulattoes. Now remember that, y'all. It's saying half. Now, what we taught is mulatto is a black and a white person. So why would a mulatto be an Indian and a black person? That don't make no sense. A mulatto would be a lighter version according to how they use it. That's how they use it. You would figure a mulatto would be a white person and a black person. But saying a mulatto is an Indian and a white person, or they trying to change it from an African to a white person. We know these people was aborigines. Okay, it's a welcome clarification of terminology was provided in 1719 by the government of South Carolina when it was decided and for preventing all debts and scruples that may arise what ought to be taxed on mustees. The mustees would be like mulattoes, etc. It say all such slaves are not entirely Indian shall be accounted as Negro. The significance of this act is that all later enumerations of Negroes and Indian slaves in South Carolina have to be analyzed with the thought in mind that many Negroes were probably one half or a fraction American ancestry. All right, so they call it. You notice in all this, right? Even when I'm reading this, even when they making it unclear, they're still not saying that these people are Africans. You understand? So even when they just saying Indian and Negro, they still not saying that the Negro is an African. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so. This another one probably deceiving right here. Say New Jersey was also the area where American and Africans in the mix. That's bullshit. It say with considerable frequency. It said in 1734 the advertisement appeared for a recover of wine. It say he is half Indian and half Negro. He plays the fiddle and speak good English and his country Indian. It say when was not specifically called a Negro, but in 1747 advertisement read. Alright, say runaway on the 20th of September last from Cohansey, a very lusty Negro following named Samson, of age about 53, and had some Indian blood in him. It say he had with him a boy about 12 to 13 years old named Sam. It say that's probably his son. It say was born of an Indian woman and looks like an Indian. It say only his hair. It say only his hair. So they trying see that's the bullshit. Okay, don't think the hair is the Indian. Don't think that. All right, from the research and what we seen, showed you plenty of pictures with these people with short hair, so we already know. The only reason they got that long European hair because some of them was mixed. Now it's not all of us. Okay, but at some point in time, we might have a little bit, we might have maybe a percentage of European in us. But listen, man, as long as y'all know what y'all are, man, you know what we moving forward towards, man. Don't let that deter from y'all, man, all right? And so they both talk Indian very well, and it's likely they have dressed themselves in Indian dress and have gone to Carolina, okay? They say similarly in 1778 advertisement, we read it say was stolen from her mother, a Negro girl about 9 to 10 years old. It said of age named Diana. It say her mother name is Cat. Now they was kidnapping people back then. They was kidnapped. They been doing this fucking human trafficking. They been doing that. They said was stolen. It say hold up. It say similar advertisement we read was stolen from her mother, a Negro girl about 9 to 10 years old. You understand what I'm saying? Named Diana. They say her mother name is Cash. They say was married to an Indian named Louis Woollis, near 6 feet high, about 35 years old. They have a male child with them between 3 to 4 of age. They say any person who takes up the said Negroes and Indians shall have the above reward. Oh, it said that they bounce. Okay, all right. So it say from these examples we can see that people of mixed American African ancestry could be called Negroes in New Jersey side. You know what? I ain't looking for that. Let me skip through that. All right, this is what I wanted to read right here. Let's see. All right, boom. Let me read this. All right, saying in the 1780s, certain white Virginians began to aggregate. It say aggregate. It say for the termination of the Gigaskin Indian Reservation of Northampton County. See, these devils was coming saying they want the more and more you read this, man, the more you see that these Europeans is devils, man. They devils, and it's nothing you can basically say that to tell you that they're not, because they come into a land that's not theirs, demanding something. It's demanding the people give them something that's not theirs, and then it's just this shit is very sad and very like disturbing to hear. And these same Europeans are the same ones that tell you to go back home, but this is their history right here. And this is how 99% of them got here, using these same tactics, all right? So it say the Northampton County, it say the reserve was described as an asylum for free Negroes. And it was alleged that the American has a length become, no, I'm sorry, let me, that ain't something. It say have at length become nearly extinct. There being at this time not more than 3 or 4 genuine Indians at most. They say the place of the harbor, they say a convenient asylum for an idle set of free Negroes in 1812. It was argued that the place is now inhabited by as many black men as Indians. They say as Indian women have many of them married black men, and the majority of them probably of the inhabitants are black. Now remember, they telling you that the Indians was black, but now they specify, oh, now the Indian woman having a baby with a black man. What black man? Black Indian? Because I mean, you're not making it clear. Okay? They say so the inhabitants are black or have black blood in them. They say the real Indians are few. Now they saying that the Indians are Negroes and the Indians are black. So this is how you will challenge the person who writing this article, because you contradicting. And I understand that it's going to be like that at times, but you have to specify. You said the Indians was black and Negroes, but now you saying that the real Indians are few. Now, all right, it's saying the reserve was divided a lot in 1813. And by 1832, whites had acquired most of it. In 1828, the Gigaskin descendants were described as respectable Negro landowners. Okay, now let's read that again. In 1828, the Gigaskin descendants were described as respectable Negro landowners. Okay, it say the episode reminds one of young attacks upon the Carib of St. Vincent in 1795, and also a more recent attempt of a lot and acquire the Indian land. It say a similar attack took place upon the Pamunkey. It say in the Matapani. It said 1843, which fell, and against the Nattawa. The Nattawa from 1830. Now, this is who I wanted to get into right here. All right, now check this out. Let's get with this. All right. Now, okay. All right. Now, I say, and against the Nattawa from 1830 and 1870. It say, which succeeded by the 1840, at least 2 Nattawas were registered as free Negroes. The heir of one family was described in 1870 as all being Negroes and very poor. Now check this out. Nottoway right here. Now boom. Let's get with something. Where was I at? Hold on. Where was I at? Was it this one? Let me see. It's this one. This shit right here. All right. So boom. All right, so now we back in to Chief Lynette Allison It say of the Nottoway tribe, Virginia. All right. So she basically she got now. Let's check this out. Now it just told you what the Nottoway tribe looked like, right? Well, what did they classify themselves as, right? Negroes, right? Let's check this out. All right, nah, I could use that another time. All right, now look at her. What the hell she look like, huh? This is the sister right here, man. If you, I mean, you could tell she mixed or whatever though. But my thing is this, man. Like, you know, you like these people gotta stop playing games with us because they keep trying to make you think that this is an Indian. Okay. Now I would love. Let me see something. Let me go back up there. Let me just see one thing. Is it telling? Let me see. All right, hold on. Let me read. Let me check this out real quick. And say they reenacted the Heron statute and ordering all children under 12 to be indentured to English as servants until the age of 24. It say Indians were forbidden to return home or they shall be transported beyond sea to England or some of the islands. Now you hear this shit? It say the England's were forbidden to return. So now check this out. That only makes the what I just showed you with the census even more because they was forbidden to return. They was threatening these people, telling them not to say they was Indians or whatever, so they couldn't claim their land or whatever, or something in that order. But it say the Indians were forbidden. Who forbidden them from claiming who they was? It had to be the devil. It say to return to their home shall be transported beyond sea to England. Okay, now when have you heard these people being and this is what you got to deal with. You got to understand that. You understand? So, let me see something. All right, nah, all right. So, nah, so all right. So, this is Chief Lynette Allison, all right, of the Nottoway tribe, Nottoway tribe. See, now you look at her, you'll be like, oh shit, that's a real Native American, right? But then you read back what we just read right here. Okay, it says similar attack took place upon the Pamunkey. It say the Monte, whatever. It say 1843, and against the Nottoway from 1830 to 1878, which succeeded by the 1840, at least two Nottoways were registered as free Negroes. The heir of one family were described in 1878 as all being Negroes and very poor. Now, do this look like a Negro? Do this look like a Negro? No, it do not. You understand? And this is the point I want to make because I was reading this, all right? And I actually caught that all in the same article because this is in the same article that I was reading about Let the Blood Be Pure. And it was telling you how they was classifying right here. This book right here, all right? So let's go back to this, man. All right, so check this out. It say aside from Virginia. Now remember this, all right? It say aside from Virginia, where person descendants from female American importer after a certain date could obtain their freedom. All slaves of American ancestry remain slaves throughout their entirety. Now remember that. It's the entire duration of slavery unless they were emancipated or ran away. Okay, so think about that. So think of let that marinate in your head. It say aside from Virginia, where persons of descendants of the female American importer after a certain date could obtain their freedom. All right. It say all slaves of American ancestry remain slaves throughout the entirety duration of slavery unless they were emancipated or ran away. It say at the end of the 18th century, Bob, a carpenter, a fella, a yellowish complexion, musty, has bushy hair, ran away. He said he said to speak more proper than Negroes in general. He said other persons, American ancestry, he said who were free were also called black and Negro. Paul Cuff is a noted half American and half so-called African merchant was called, you know what I'm saying, was called a various time a Indian, a black man. And this free and enlightened African, they say he signed petitions with Indian men and all free Negroes and mulattoes. Other examples of similar nature aboard, one author writes that the Sanson of Gillo property owner and school teachers, though predominantly of Indian blood, were leader among the free Negroes of Petersburg in Virginia, 1860. All right. You know what? Let me read a little bit more. Virginia tax roll and census report from 1880. Now check this. Might give us some. From 1880 to 1850 have numerous examples of Indian tribal identity being classified as free color of, it say, or mulatto. Now look. Now check this out. It say from 1780 to 1850 have numerous examples of Indian tribal identity being classified as people of free color. Alright, it say or as mulattoes. It say in fact of, now remember, that's this right here. No, hold up. This one? No, it's this one right here. Now remember what I told y'all. Let's go to Virginia. Let's look up Virginia. So they telling you they have slaves in Virginia. Let's look in Virginia. Let's see if we can find any Indians in Virginia at that time. Hold up. I think that might have been. Let me see. Let's go Oklahoma. All right, South Carolina. I can look on South Carolina. All right. So remember, white, black, the total population, white, black, American Indian, Asian, whatever. All right. So boom, you got other classifications, but down here you don't see nothing. All right. And then on this side, you got your black right here, 1790. You got no Indians until 1860. You got 88. And then up here, you don't have nobody until you got one person. All right. So no Indians from 1790 to 18. But they telling you that there was Indian slaves. So where are the Indians at? The Indians are right here. Here they go right here. Okay, they're right here classified as black, free, and slaves. Okay, so people, come on, man. You gotta be smarter than that because they telling you that they enslaved Indians. So where are they at? And then if you want to play, you can play it from any which way you bust it because the narrative that they telling you that they sent so-called Aborigines to the Bermuda and Brazil, what happened to them people? And when they came back, what was they classified as? So, I mean, like I said, man, a lot of these articles aren't like so-called crazy peer review, but it pretty much tell you what you're looking for. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to do another part, another half on this other video right here. But, yo, man, look up. I'm going to put the link in the description for this, man. But I'm going to end this video right here or whatever. Let me just remember where I stopped. Let me see something. Hold up. Now I'm gonna end it right here, man. I don't want matter of fact, no, there you go. Let me go. Alright, so let me just see something real quick. I seen something I wanted to read. Alright. Alright, that was that right there. Let me see. Alright, let me see something. Now it's saying North Carolina, many people of the Limbury of the Limby Indians identified were categorized at times as Negro. It said 1837, Charles Axenden, whatever. It say Robeson County were punished as a free Negro. In 1842, one of the Brave Boy family was called a Negro, while in 1857, they say Chiva was charged as a free person of color and carrying a shotgun. He was not convicted because the act specified free Negroes. It say, and he was charged as a free color. It say the court stated that free person of color may be person of color of Indian blood. It say an indictment cannot be sustained. Okay. Alright, so, I mean, you know what? Let me see. In Louisiana in 1856, the black hole was said to refer to the offensive involving slave Indians and free person of color. Many narratives of ex-slaves recorded in 1830 revealed Indian ancestry. One person called an Indian and Uncle Mobile Hobson, say of Virginia. He said, come time to marry. Come time to marry. They say, and he married a black woman. Me black. Let's say our spouse. I don't know what the fuck that means. It say 1871. It say white writer, a Maryland observer. All right, I'm gonna stop it here, man. But I'm gonna read through the rest of this. And I'm probably gonna make a part 2 to this, man, because I got a lot of different information on this, alright? So I just want to put out there that they was classifying so-called Aborigines as Negroes, and this would make sense why they was doing it. I mean, if you think about it, they told you if you got color on your birth certificate, then you are one of them. They didn't classify you as a Negro, I guess, at that point in time. But you know what? Like I said, I'm gonna put the link in the description. I'm gonna put this one. I'm gonna put this one. I'm gonna put the other one. I'll put all 3 links in the description, plus this one. You guys can check it out, man. But hopefully, man, you guys enjoy this video, man. Because like I said, I be finding these articles, and sometimes I just be keeping it. Sometimes I keep it for my own use. But this right here is a game changer, because we found out that so-called Indian slaves were slaves for the duration of time, just like the so-called black or a so-called African slave. We calling these Indians Negroes and black, okay? So that kind of changes a lot of different things. You heard the author of Let the Blood Be Pure commonly tell you that Native Americans, that the word Negro might have been for Native Americans. All right, so with that being said, man, y'all already know who the Negroes are. So you already know, everybody, we don't need to play these word semantic games. We know who Negroes are. And it told you that the word Negro didn't apply to Africans, because most Africans are black, are dark, and dark brown and light brown, whatever it said. But that, I found that to be very strange. So with that being said, man, it's your boy the Conscience One, man. Comment, like, subscribe, man. Peace.